Subscribe now, because what you are about to hear might change the way you look at the smallest coins in your collection. Every day, thousands of people overlook the treasures sitting quietly in old boxes, dusty drawers, and forgotten tins. But today, you and I are going to bring one of those sleepers into the light. And for the men watching between the ages of 55 and 65, men who appreciate history, craftsmanship, and the value of time itself, this is a story you will feel in your bones. Let me take you back to the year 1961, a year of change, tension, and transition. South Africa was stepping into a new political era, reshaping its identity, and preparing to introduce a set of coins that would mark the beginning of a new chapter. Most people remember the headlines, the speeches, the political atmosphere, but very few remember the quiet introduction of a small copper coin that would later capture the imagination of collectors around the world. The South Africa 1 cent from 1961.it was a coin that seemed simple at first glance. Modest, lightweight, the kind of coin that slipped into wallets, fell into pockets, and often disappeared into jars without a second thought. But sometimes the smallest things carry the deepest stories. When this coin was minted, the nation was in the midst of defining itself, and each piece of currency symbolized that shift. The 1 cent coin became part of daily life, passing through thousands of hands as the country entered a new era. But what makes this coin so fascinating is not just its age or its symbolism. It is the story that unfolded after decades passed, when collectors began to realize that the 1961 issue was not just another copper coin. It was the beginning of a series, the first strike of a new national phase, and the earliest examples of these coins were produced under conditions that would never be repeated. For collectors in their 50s and 60s, this kind of historical weight is not just interesting. It is personally meaningful. Many of you remember the world before the modern age, when craftsmanship meant pride, when objects were made to endure, and when even small items carried dignity. Now imagine the coin itself. Its surface marked with the portrait that had become familiar to South Africans, its lettering crisp and balanced, its reverse bearing the national emblem. It wasn't flashy or extravagant, but it held a quiet strength, a reliability, the kind of strength older generations admire, because it speaks of discipline, tradition, and perseverance. Over time, as newer coins replaced older designs, many of the original 1961 pieces vanished from circulation. Some were melted down, others damaged, others simply lost to time. The number of surviving examples, especially those in excellent condition, grew smaller every year. And as scarcity increased, collectors began paying more attention. The whispers grew. Stories spread among coin dealers and hobbyists. People began searching drawers, safes, and old family boxes, hoping to uncover one from the early mint batches. Collectors, especially seasoned men with decades of knowledge, understand that rarity is only part of value. A coin gains power when rarity meets history, when scarcity meets nostalgia, when an object becomes a bridge between the present and the past. The 1961 South Africa 1 cent became exactly that, and then something remarkable happened. A few exceptional examples were discovered. Coins struck with slightly different characteristics. Coins preserved so perfectly that they looked as though they had just left the mint. Coins that shouldn't have survived in such pristine condition, but somehow did. These early surviving pieces became legends. Conversations about them spread across collector circles, whispered at auctions, debated among experts. The coin was no longer just a historical artifact. It was becoming a prize. Picture an experienced collector, maybe someone around 60, someone who has spent decades studying details, patterns, metal tones, and minting quirks. He holds the 1961 coin under a magnifying glass, studying the edges, the texture, the alignment, appreciating every stroke of the design. He knows the weight of history in his hands. He understands that a coin is not just metal. It is a witness, a survivor, a messenger from the past. This is why the 1961 1 cent began to command respect. And with respect came value. Auction houses started paying attention. Collectors began competing fiercely. Every time a high-grade example surfaced, it became an event. People traveled to see it. Dealers negotiated privately. Serious buyers prepared for battles of bidding. Because they knew that once these coins were claimed, they would disappear into private collections for years, maybe decades. Now imagine a major private auction, attended by some of the most dedicated collectors and investors in the field. The room is quiet, not because people are uninterested, but because they understand the magnitude of what they are about to witness. The auctioneer lifts a small capsule containing the 1961 South Africa 1 cent. It gleams under the lights with a glow that only age and preservation can create. The bidding starts cautiously, then confidently, then aggressively. The price climbs rapidly. Observers lean forward. Breath slows. The tension builds until the final bid shatters previous expectations and sets a new benchmark for what a small copper coin can represent.